Guys, brilliant! So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome! If you can hear me now, that means only one thing. You are in the right place at the right time. Welcome to 500 Global Eurasia Batch 8 Demo Day! And this is right now a reminder from NMC of the night that it's time to take your seat. It's time to get closer to the front because what you're going to witness is going to go to the books. While taking your seat, make sure that you put your phone on the silent mode because we do love your live social media stories, but we don't like the ringtones because we want to hear what's happening here on stage, hot and fresh. And in the meantime, before we begin, make sure you say hi to your neighbor because you never know. Maybe on your right side, you have the next unicorn founder sitting, or on the left side, your next investor. We're about to start in a moment. Make sure you take your seat, put your phone in silent, and see you in a moment. Good evening, Tbilisi, and everyone tuning in from all over the world. For those in the room, gamarjaba. This is how we say hello in Georgian, our hosting country. Welcome to 500 Eurasia Batch 8 Demo Day. It's a big honor to have you all here because it's fantastic to see so many founders, investors, stakeholders, ecosystem players being here today to witness the history and one more great successful batch and the pitches. And speaking of the demo day, I would like to know more about who is in the room. How many of you are actually here in Tbilisi just for the demo day? Please raise your hand. All right, we have quite a lot of people. How many of you have been to the 500 Eurasia Demo Day before, or 500 Global? All right, fantastic. We're really happy to have you back, and it's always good to see familiar faces. Tonight is the night that is packed with an incredible agenda. We're going to dive into the topics of AI with the industry experts. We're going to have investors sharing with us their view. We will hear the 6 portfolio companies, 6 founders pitching and sharing the problem they are solving that they've been preparing for the last 12 weeks. That's a big amount of time, right? Day and night preparing, crafting the pitch, crafting the problem, pivoting, coming back again to square zero to actually get where we are right now. And of course, the final part, we will have also our alumni. Alumni who will share with us the progress that's been happening since the last time they were on stage. So that's going for sure exciting. That's going to be very exciting. But Demo Day and this event is more than just the pitches. It's a lot about the vision behind the product. It's a lot about the community that gathers together here in person and also online because we can feel your spirits and your energy here and the support. And also, it's a human behind the code. Speaking of which, my name is Ilya, and I'm a creator and podcast host of Perception Paradox podcast. So I travel the world and I look and search for underdog founder stories and cover topics on the philosophy, health, and entrepreneurship. And it's my big honor today to be with you here today as your host and guide you through today's packed agenda, which we are going to kick off actually with a wrap-up what's been happening recently in the last 12 weeks with the badge. But before we dive into that, I think it's important to set a bit of the ground rules, or just to remind that you all have the badges, and each badge has a QR code. If you scan your QR code, you will learn more about the founders, the startups, and that's going to be also the way to connect beyond this event to the ecosystem. The same who is tuning in online, you can see the QR code on your screens. You can scan it and learn more what's waiting ahead of us today and stay connected, because it's all about connecting and also maintaining and keeping that connection together. All right, so I guess we are ready to begin. Are we? Great. So what could be a better way to kick off with one and only our partner at 500 Global, Pedro Santos Vieira? Because today we're all about what happens when human ambition meets artificial intelligence, not only in theory, but also in practice. And today we're going to have a great example. So we will have Pedro on stage, but before Pedro joins us on stage, we will have a video created by AI, powered by Catalyst, one of our 500 global portfolio company that transforms enterprise communication using generated video. And before Pedro joins us on stage to share his vision, I guess let's hear from him and his message from the lens of AI. So please welcome Pedro on stage.
As today's theme, we weren't just following a trend. We were recognizing a fundamental shift happening right here, right now in our region. Today, you'll see why Eurasia isn't just participating in the AI revolution, we're helping define it. And we have with us today more than 10 international investors from the US, Europe, and Asia to witness it, and 2 global media outlets covering it. At 500 Global, we've invested in over 3,000 companies across 80 plus countries. We have over 2.3 billion under management. Our funds and acceleration programs have often been at the inception of several emerging markets. 500 Eurasia is the most recent example of this. We have accelerated more than 60 companies, and even though the first investments are recent, already 1 in 4 companies raised follow-on capital. Together, they have raised close to 8x more than we invested. But we're not just writing checks, we're building the infrastructure for the next generation of global companies from this region. There's something unique happening in our region. Founders who understand both emerging markets and developed economies. They're building for global scale from day one with the efficiency of local markets and the ambition of Silicon Valley. Case in point, Catalyst AI, who produced this video, got to 500K net new ARR with just 100K investment, and Praktika.ai, which you'll hear from later on stage, went from $0 to $20 million annual recurring revenue in just over 2 years. This is not just efficient and fast, this is world-class growth.
How about that? I mean, if we keep it on, we have 2 Pedros, and then we need a third one to start singing the song, right? The cool thing about this video is it was built with just one static picture of Pedro and one prompt text from Pedro, and still they were able to get my eye wrinkles and my eyebrows movement, and it's amazing Gen AI. But jokes aside, today, as you know, our demo days are way more than just people and founders pitching on stage. Today, there's a day full of content around AI, and the founders that you will see on stage, they're actually the embodiment of what Walter is going to cover with his keynote, which is what we call strategic discernment. They didn't build something just because they could build it. They built it because the world needs it. And so these companies who are covering things from geospatial analysis to educational technology and a few other verticals, they're building things, they're solving problems in the real world using AI, not just adding AI to their pitch decks, okay? And the rest of the content will follow this. So on this topic of human ambition in artificial intelligence. We'll have Walter talk about this AI and human ambition paradox, what to build, what not to build, now that you can build anything, everywhere, anywhere so fast. And we'll have our panel of international investors talk about how AI is impacting them internally, on how they run their companies, externally, how they assess the deals. And then I'll come back on stage to talk a little bit more, trying to get a little bit, as they say, deep and personal with Ilya from Praktika, and trying to discuss a little bit more of what happens when you combine human ambition and artificial intelligence. AI will not be built in one single region. AI will be built in the regions where ambitious and talented founders reside. And many of them are here in Eurasia, and you'll see them tonight.
Thank you so much, Pedro, for joining us on stage, both virtually and presently here, and also portraying what's going to be ahead of us. And yes, real people, real problems, real challenges. We are here not for the decks, but actually for the real solutions that matters. And I think Pedro really gave a great introduction for our upcoming keynote speaker about the ambition paradox, right? So yeah, Walter Pasquarelli. I think no more. I would like just to welcome you on stage to share us the knowledge.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I think this was actually the first time that someone this year pronounced my last name correctly. So thank you so much. I'm very glad about this. So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Pedro and to 500 Global for having me here. It's been really fantastic meeting everyone in your wonderful city, and I can't wait to hear more about the phenomenal inventions that will be presented here today. Every great technological innovation has followed through periods of wonder and of boredom. And if you think about it, that makes sense. When the first printing press came out in the Middle Ages by Gutenberg, it was considered a highly complex device that was initially incredibly hard to copy, until just a couple of decades later, it became widespread and became the catalyst of the Renaissance and the Enlightenment period all over Europe. And that was a very similar case as well with photography. And the initial machines that came out were considered something that was highly complex. But now, as I look into this room, I can see that everyone has an ability to make photographs just within their pockets. It became mainstream. And that's a very similar case as well when we look at computers. This is a picture of the computer that we had at home, in particular with Windows 98. All of a sudden, every child was able to access incredible computation power and later on the internet simply from their desks. And I'll argue that this is something that is quite similar with what we see with artificial intelligence, that we can see movies, marketing copy, code, images, poetry, maybe even rap songs produced at just a click of a button. But perhaps the thing that is different this time is the spread and the general purpose of their applications. We see this in medicine, where we have so-called synthetic knowledge workers that can now increasingly produce diagnoses that are at least on par as with any other human being. We see this in writing, where the publishing industry and even the education sector is wondering, how are we meant to deal with this new breakthroughs? How are we meant to educate the students that we have? And of course, in the world of startups and programming and for developers, artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI, is becoming a partner in producing innovations. But as a matter of fact, in this age of abundance, where everything is possible, does that mean that we should create everything? Perhaps the why is more important than the can we. And the question that I would like to answer today in this presentation is, what happens now that production costs will go increasingly to zero? This is what I call the AI and ambition paradox. and why I think that knowing what not to build will be your main competitive advantage in this new era that is unfolding today. This is me. I always feel very awkward seeing myself here, so I'm going to try and cover this up. My name is Walter Pasquarelli. I live in London. I've spent the past 10 years working in artificial intelligence strategy. I'm currently running my own AI strategy firm. I'm a research affiliate at Cambridge University, an expert member at the OECD, and I used to run the AI thought leadership programs within The Economist back in the days. Now, how do we get here? When I first landed in Bahrain in December of 2022, my task was actually pretty simple. Moderate a digital innovation conference with local leaders, ask questions, listen, and that was about it. But as soon as I hit the stage on that day, I noticed that the room seemed to have different ideas. All of a sudden, everyone was talking about this tool that would be producing marketing copy. All of a sudden, everyone wanted to understand, okay, what happens now that we can just produce anything in a couple of seconds? And for some reason, and all of a sudden, my carefully crafted questions about digital innovation now felt as relevant as a masterclass on the fax machine. So what happened? Traditionally, when we used to look at artificial intelligence, we would effectively look at tools with limited data sets that would allow us to fulfill one limited task. And that task could range from anything like forecasting demand of how many bottles of Coca-Cola we were going to sell next year. Maybe we would have another tool that we could then use to segment customers, understand who they are, how old are they, are we talking about a particular kind of group, when do they buy them? But the critical thing here is really that it used to be one tool for one specific task based on one data set. But then one day, some research firms, particularly in the West Coast of the United States, but also in other areas, started asking themselves the question, what if instead of using small data sets, we try and combine all of the data that we can find on the openly available internet? So it's enormous amounts of information. Think about how much is out there on the web. What if now we use this data and we run it through models that require so much computation power that not even entire nations can afford? What would happen? And what would happen is that we landed on something that we call foundation models. Foundation models are, roughly speaking, the backbone of modern artificial intelligence. And as a matter of fact, they kind of flipped the script. So rather than having one separate tool that would allow us to forecast demand or segment customers, now we would have a tool that would be able to do various tasks at once, that would be broader in its application. One to rule them all, to reference The Lord of the Rings, if anyone here is a fan of it. I am. And it was quite interesting because initially, when OpenAI, back then a pretty small startup in 2019, came out and said, we have published a research paper that can produce limited strings of text, and it can finish an excerpt or a marketing copy, everyone was like, oh wow, this is magical, this is crazy. And OpenAI themselves said, yeah, but we cannot release it because we think it's too dangerous. And everyone that I was speaking with in the AI strategy world was, oh yeah, I'm sure you have this tool. I'm sure you have. Absolutely. But as soon as they released it, to their own surprise, generative AI started going mainstream. And between 2022 and 2023, ChatGPT became the fastest growing app of all time. Now, it should be said that AI historically as well has always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with users, with investors. We went through periods of AI winters where we thought, okay, we're kind of done here. And then we went through other periods where we thought, oh my God, we're about to solve intelligence. And this has varied over the decades. But now, really since 2022, we've seen really like that this hype has continued, for better or for worse, I should say. And soon after, I came back from Bahrain, some images started to emerge. Here are a few of my favorite ones. Will Smith working in a department store, Emma Watson working in the back of a restaurant, and of course, the old Pope Francis wearing a Balenciaga jacket. And this image of Pope Francis, I should say, was actually the first instance of an image that went viral and was largely assumed to be the real thing, to the extent that the papal office had to issue a tweet and say, hang on a sec, we do not endorse Balenciaga. I think it looks pretty fire, but fair enough. And businesses loved it, to the extent that they started putting AI everywhere, such as, this is my favorite example of Oral-B, that they developed a toothbrush called Nothing Less But Genius. A toothbrush that had AI. And that is just to say that not everything that shines is gold. So be aware of it when you try and assess the new innovations, new pitches, some things that are put on the market. But if we look at the progress of artificial intelligence over the years, what we can see is that it has really gone from chatbots that we could basically ask questions, write me this thing out, how should I reply to this email that I do not want to reply to more analytical tools, what they called reasoners. And now we're at the stage of what some people call agents, well, agentic AI, so which basically means that there is increased autonomy, so tools that can go out and fulfill tasks more or less by themselves with some supervision. From my conversations with the leadership of OpenAI, as well as the founder of Uber called Travis Kalanick, the main goal of some of the biggest investors and developers right now is what they call truth-seeking AI, which might raise a few eyebrows to some, but as a matter of fact, what that means is that we try and find insights that are not within the data sets. So we try to find new phenomena of the world, things that are effectively novel. And that is extremely difficult, because AI is based on the data that, as we discussed, on the internet. As we look into the future, there is a few questions that will become relevant, and that is, if we give these tools more autonomy and we give them more responsibility, then we also increase the amount of risks. So we can think of, for instance, using AI for in cases of medicine. Another area which sadly is becoming more and more discussed right now is the military. Another one is surveillance, but there's also some others which might be proactive AI assistants where the risk of using them are still relatively low, beyond maybe booking you a train ticket to the wrong place or so. But as a matter of fact, now that we all have these kinds of tools available, now that even people who might not be coders by background can at least to some extent give instructions to get some kind of outputs, we are approaching something that I call the overproduction crisis. And that, I think, is something that will be increasingly relevant for any founder or anyone professionally active. One of the studies that I have been monitoring closely has been one made by Europol just last year. And effectively, what Europol predicted, based on input from different kinds of experts and surveys, was that within the next 2 years, all of the outputs that you will see online will at least in part, or 90% of them, will at least in part be AI generated. So the way that we're looking at it in practice is that we're seeing already now an avalanche of AI-generated content coming up. And we see this in anywhere from content creation, from written outputs. In biology, it's being used in synthetic data. Of course, the creative industries and writing, for them, this is a big topic that is currently really making them grapple with the future of their profession. And of course, in finance, we see this as well in business model, financial analysis. And if I can mention a number, a survey that we conducted recently with investment professionals in big banks, of the people aged above 50, 50% would trust an output generated by AI for an investment recommendation. I find it highly questionable, but each to their own, I guess. But in sum, what we are seeing increasingly is that there's really a changing role of human labor. So we don't have only the human skill or expertise that is just a standalone thing, but we're increasingly working together with these kinds of tools. There is really a rise of generated expertise that is inherently limited, but increasingly being used, at least on low-risk tasks. And critically, we see there is really an infinite production that will have an impact on competition. Now, who succeeds in an economy that is synthetic? My argument is that it's not just output, but it's also perception, not necessarily origins, that will dominate value. Those who are able to use these tools in a way that is correct and in a way that generates novelty are the ones that will thrive. But that doesn't mean that we should do everything. Some of you might have seen posts like this. This is on LinkedIn, where there has been a notable spike in content production over the past few years, particularly because maybe people who weren't exactly gifted writers now started essentially saying to ChatGPT, write about my new achievement. I am delighted to announce that. And you can see that we see a lot of these comments that are effectively just like summarizations of what someone might have been written. So I'll just speak bluntly. We see quite like an increase of garbage content and of garbage production, to put it, as we say where I'm from, to call the child by its name. And does that mean as well that we're going to create ever dumber models? Because the question here is that if AI is trained on the data that it finds online, then it means that it's all going to converge towards the middle of the bell curve. Because after all, oh, this is not clicking. Ah, yeah. After all, it's all just statistics. Now, this creates a problem for us, and that is the problem of choice, and the abundance of choice in particular. And economists such as Daniel Kahneman, as well as Barry Schwartz, tried warning us about this in the past years, that when we have more and more choices, it doesn't necessarily make the quality of what we produce better. It doesn't necessarily make our lives better. And there is increasingly the feeling that the amount of choices that we have limit our ability to do the right one. Statistically speaking, all of our research shows when you have too many opportunities, you either risk doing the wrong one, or worse, you do the right one and think it was the wrong one. Now, what does this mean? First of all, I think one way of looking at artificial intelligence as it stands today is that we've kind of spoiled it a bit, because by calling it artificial intelligence, we gave it that mystique, that, oh, this robot thing, the future, something that triggers really our imagination. But perhaps if we slightly reframe it to statistical computing, which I'm aware sounds wildly unsexy, that allows us to look at it more like a tool rather than some kind of reinvention of humanity or some kind of a thing having personhood. But things get even a little bit more complicated here. And that's because of what I call synthetic reality and the hyperrealism trap. Now, some of you might have been in this position. You listen to a speech from an influencer or a politician that inspires you to join a movement. You watch an influencer and they present their latest sneaker drop, and you buy them. And maybe one day you get a message, a voice note from someone that you love. The voice crisp, unchanged by time, triggering that same kind of familiarity. Then one day, you realize that none of them were real. They were all AI generated, like AI Pedro earlier. And that is something that we're increasingly seeing today of the content that we see online, particularly on TikTok. And I was speaking about this with one of their policy leaders, and they say, we just don't know whether this is actually AI generated or not. But from a survey that we conducted with some of the top 50 influencers in the UK, they all use AI to produce their content because it allows them to scale. Now, a very quick question to you. Which burger of these ones here do you think is the real one? If you think it's the one on the left, please raise your hand. Okay. Who of you would like to eat the burger on the right? Which one do you think is the real one? Please raise your hand. And now I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Who of you is unsure? Nobody's unsure. All right. It's the one on the left. But what does this tell us? Maybe some of you might have seen this burger and felt like, I kind of want to eat that. And that's exactly the thing that what it tells us about experience and what these tools do to us. One night, after a formal dinner at a college in Cambridge, I overheard a group of freshers girls talking about someone named Dan. And one of them started saying, Dan is very good looking. And the other one said, yeah, but he's also very, very sweet. And someone else then said, well, Dan, he's got a bit of an attitude, but that's actually quite endearing. And I thought, man, someone's got it going on. Not bad. A couple days later, during a late-night TikTok scroll, I saw someone else then speaking about this famous Dan. And so I thought immediately, who is this Dan? And when she spoke into her phone, and I heard the answer, that's when it hit me. Dan was not the handsome bloke that I had imagined. In fact, Dan wasn't even a guy at all. He was ChatGPT's male voice. The video had 100,000 likes and plenty of comments of people that started saying, oh, well, yeah, I use this every day. I share all of my experiences with him. Any question I have, that's what I talk about. And Dan was not alone. The Daily Mail shortly after started reporting about a German Bundesliga player, which is like the equivalent of the Premier League, who slid into the DMs of an influencer called Emily Pellegrini. A classic thing that happens thousands, millions of times all across the world, you might think, except that Emily and her entire modeling family were AI generated and raking in about $80,000 on OnlyFans. This is a chart that I saw from Harvard Business Review just a couple of weeks ago, which it tries to understand the top use cases of generative AI. Last year, it was all about generating ideas, specific search, maybe editing text. Today, the top 3 use cases are therapy and companionship. Secondly, organizing my life. And third is finding life purpose. And what I'm trying to say with this is that, yes, while we focus on sort of this content that comes out and everybody now is freaking out about the deepfakes that are really on the rise all across the world, what this means is that our understanding of authenticity is fundamentally changing. And when our understanding of authenticity changes, that means as well that we need to try and use AI to generate experiences that are real. And how do we do that? In synthetic reality, as we say, everything is real and both nothing is. It's kind of a new category. Now, this is what I call finding edge. We have all these opportunities of creating new things at basically zero costs. What does this mean for founders? What does this mean for people who maybe want to become writers or artists or musicians? It would be very easy to assume that now we can do now we should just like give all of our creative work to these kinds of tools. But I argue still that this is wrong. And to understand this, I think we really need to understand the role that humans have played throughout the technology life cycle. People have traditionally feared automation and what it does to humans. I think there was even a report that was handed over to the Lyndon Johnson administration that was warning about technology taking away all of our creativity and all of our jobs. So the things that people are fearing today about this whole new thing is really nothing new. If anything, it empowers us. And just to show you a couple of more studies that have been generated over the past years. And of course, with that, there have been also a number of headlines that we say, oh yeah, now that AI can produce anything, that there's this overproduction, we don't need humans anymore. And I still argue that this is incorrect. As a matter of fact, what we observe through all of the evidence that we have is that artificial intelligence is pretty good at doing tasks that have only a set limit of excellence. So tasks that basically mean we can't get any better than that. Think of making basic calculations. Think of making maybe accounting services. I can optimize my taxes just in a certain way, and beyond that, I can't do that only if I break the law. And this is one of the critical things which I think is what makes us relevant and what gives us this edge. It's excellence. Excellence and doing something that artificial intelligence cannot do is what really will differentiate us in this new era. When production cost goes to zero, when unlimited opportunities arise, the distinguishing factor that will keep us and give us competitive advantages are not producing more or producing for the sake of it, but other things will become relevant, such as taste, such as selecting, such as understanding our audiences, speaking with people, having that messiness. And the thing here to understand as well is that it's highly unlikely that we're going to find our own advantage by trying to understand AI. The thing I always say is that I think we need to get machines becoming better at being machines and humans being better at being humans, if that makes sense. Only that way we can really stimulate that cooperation between the two. Remember this curve. Everything that we create plainly through AI and not using it as an assistant will always end up on the middle of the bell curve. It's going to be an average, a statistical average. So instead, we need to find ways to use it and to cooperate with it that allows us to stick out. I'm personally an avid reader, and I've read this year books on creativity, on thinking, on startups, on love, on writing. And as a matter of fact, they all say the same thing in different formats. And that one thing is that to truly stick out, whether that would be creativity, whether there would be a startup, whether there would be writing, is having the courage to do something that was never done before. Something that is not in the data that we have as observance, or in our conversation, in the data that we found in AI. This is a gentleman called Rick Rubin, who I think is kind of cool. For those of you who do not know him, he's the one who's produced the Black Album of Metallica. He's produced the album of Adele. He's produced basically every single album that has defined pop music over the past decades. He doesn't play any instrument. He does not know what composition is. He doesn't even know how to operate a studio. So the interviewer, who I believe was Anderson Cooper, asked him, "What do you get paid for?" And his answer was, "I can get anyone to create anything for me. I can get the best musicians, the best guitarists, the best singers. What I get paid for is the confidence that people have in my taste." Knowing what to build in the future will require judgment under uncertainty. AI can excel with patterns and accelerate things, but us humans, we excel with paradoxes. We need to have, I think, the courage to be what I say is beautifully wrong instead of boringly right, and a willingness to have a connection through shared vulnerability and not just shared efficiency. Take the risks to be creative in ways that the data would not support. And I promise you, you will stick out in the era of AI. Thank you for having me. This is a link to my profile. Let's continue the conversation. Thank you so much.
Walter, thank you so much. So many food for thought right now, and I totally resonated. Dear LinkedIn fam, everyone using AI, not in an authentic way, but it actually can help us really to solve big problems, and yeah, and even get paid for that. We continue our theme of AI with an upcoming panel, but before we dive and I introduce you what we are going to hear about, I would like to invite my helpers team and to listen for a great music before we set up the stage, so we have it ready. For your help here. And right now, we're continuing diving into the AI topic and more from the investor's perspective and investor's side. How do they make decisions? How do they identify what's the hype and what's beyond the hype when they make their own investments? Do they use AI actually for sourcing the deals? A lot of questions are up right now in the market, and there is no one right way to do so. But right now, we're about to hear from the experts in the industry. So I would like to invite on stage Ash Arora, partner at Local Globe, Rishabh Kaul, venture partner at Hoxton Ventures, and our dear moderator, Diliana Haralanova, managing partner at The Recursive. So give a round of applause for our panelists.
Everyone, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. We have a great topic to discuss together with Ash and Rishabh, and this is Beyond the AI Hype, how smart money identifies real ambition. And Rish, I want to start with you with the main topic for today, and this is human ambition. And from your perspective, how AI changed the things that you look for in founding team's ambition?
Yeah. I think the first thing that AI has changed for all the investors is imagining the size of the outcomes. If you think about it, it was almost impossible imagining a company reaching $1 trillion in market cap, right? Like, think about it, $1 trillion, that's like GDPs of countries. And now, within just over the last few years, you're seeing one company which is inching very close to that, and it's backed by revenues. And so I think when you see something like that as an investor, you start feeling that if it's happened once, can it happen again? It's the same thing like when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute record for running a mile. Once he did it, other people could do it as well. So I think one of the things that investors start thinking about, and obviously some of it is a function of how large a fund it is, but in general, I think they're expecting outsized outcomes. And so if you are thinking outsized outcomes, then you expect founders to come up with ideas that can achieve some of those outcomes. So for example, if I were to look at one of our portfolio companies, it's a company called Cusp AI. And what Cusp guys are doing is they are trying to use they've created a foundational model to identify new materials. So it's like saying, you know, what is the market cap if you find a new material, which could be the next gold, which could be the next platinum, which could be the next whatever, right? And so I think that's sort of like one end of an example of what investors are thinking. So you're looking for founders to either come up with something that just sounds insane, right, when you hear it for the first time. I think the other thing that you're also sort of looking for is the speed at which they're iterating. So a few years ago, the way to think of a company would have been, you know, think about a problem long and hard, spend your entire life thinking about that problem. And that's still a correct way. But the other way is, one of the things that investors, certainly I look at, is how quickly is a team able to iterate? Because if you have a bunch of really smart people and you give them incredible tools, and those tools are getting better every day, then the only way you could potentially win is to be able to rapidly iterate things extremely fast, right? It's not uncommon to see people go through 10 different ideas in a matter of a couple of months to figure out that one idea that sticks. So I think some of those things are what I would look for.
Yeah, thank you. And another thing that I would like to ask you is something that it's been on my mind recently. I've been discussing this with friends and colleagues, and this goes to both of you, actually, the question. But are we seeing more companies, more AI companies that solve real problems versus companies that are chasing the AI trend? And how we can tell the difference, actually?
Is it to me again?
Yeah.
You want to take
Can you start, please?
Okay, yeah. So I think it's real problems are all around us, right? I think people that go after real problems, when you meet them, they don't talk about AI. They talk about the problem. They try to go about explaining why this is an important problem, why is this a big problem, and then they talk about AI very naturally in the discussion. So it would be like, hey, this is what we want to do. This is a massive opportunity. We couldn't have done it up till now. Now we have the technology to do it, but like the problem is not necessarily changing. And so I think that's something that often stands out, versus a lot of times you come across a company that will just start by saying, hey, here's what we are doing and we're using AI. And often, as investors that get a certain amount of deal flow, you will come across 20 such ideas, all claiming the same thing. So if you're going to enter a commoditized industry, for example, right, or an industry which has lots of players, customer service, HR tech, marketing automation, sales tools, right, which had millions of companies in the SaaS era, and now you're going to hear someone say, well, we're going to do the same thing but using AI, that's not necessarily going to be very interesting. And so you are really looking for people to go very, very deep into the problem and then be really in love with that problem, and then you sort of talk about AI. And potentially you have some sort of a unique insight rather than just plugging the AI, because a lot of these things are now getting commoditized. It's often an API that anybody can use. And so what is it that makes you unique? Sometimes it's still hard, right? So it's easy to dismiss somebody with no background coming and talking about AI in a problem area that they don't know. It's harder to evaluate a company when you see 3 people from DeepMind talking about a problem. They look good on paper, you know. So like that's where some of those judgment call comes, right? Because that's a hard company to say no to. So yeah, I think we're in a very interesting age.
Yeah, thank you. I love how you put it. So that's to be in love with the problem, and that's to identify what makes you unique. And this is something that actually goes beyond the AI companies, and it's something that every startup can take on. And Ash, do you want to add something to
Yeah, I think that was beautifully said. I completely agree with that. I think that AI is basically a paradigm shift to the point that it will create new markets that could not be even created earlier. It's not about it being automated now. It is coming more from a lens of tangibility of those solutions. The theme of broader physical AI that is now emerging, that often goes beyond robotics and hardware, which was not the case earlier, because physical innovation in everyone's minds was robots, automation, warehouse automation, RPA, etc. But today, physical AI basically means tangible AI. What is something that you actually see around you that is tangibly disrupted and automated with AI? I think one of my favorite examples that came out 2 years ago was the AI SDR. So that's basically a sales development representative. Why did we need to automate a sales team? Basically, if you think about it. The rationale behind that is because hiring for SDRs is a very cumbersome job. So it's not that AI automated the hiring piece, it automated the entire team altogether. So that is the tangibility that we see with AI in this day and age, which is not possible, which was not possible before this wave and this amount of innovation that's happened in this space.
Great, thank you. And if we need to bring the AI more on the operational side, for you as a VC, how did AI change the operation for you as a VC, for example, from deal sourcing to due diligence and etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I won't say when AI first came out. Let's talk about when ChatGPT went viral, right? Because that has kind of become like the November, December 22 inflection point for AI for all of us. When it came out, we basically called internally, we called like a meeting. And we said that, okay, this is there. How do we use it? How do we invest with it? And how do we see a future with it? If you think about it as a VC, we do sourcing, picking, and winning. Winning is entirely a human-to-human level connection and the amount of trust you've been able to build with the founders and the team so that you're able to be, like, it's a privilege to earn the right to be on a cap table. So that still very much remains human. There is zero disruption that's happened there. And to be honest, I wouldn't even be that confident VC who'd say that it's not possible to disrupt it. I'd be very open to the ideas of how it can be disrupted as well, if anyone's listening. On the sourcing and the picking side, there are lots of these data analytics tools that have been used for over a decade now to source companies. You have like so many different legal entities and private companies that get registered. How do you source? How do you make sense of that data? How do you do some sort of pattern recognition? So there are a large number of tools that have come into the market that we are using. But specifically, I think one of my favorite personally is Spectre, a tool that we use internally, and how they have basically managed to get different signals about the same founders and about the same teams in a very beautiful design and making basically lives easier. When we open up the website, it's very easy for us to pick, hey, this is the kind of people, or this is the type of founder, or this is the theme or the thesis that we want to kind of back and explore. So it's helping us manage our calendars better, aka making us more efficient. And then on the picking piece, I think I'm biased, but ChatGPT deep research is hand to God, one of the best things that I've ever come across. Historically, when you want to invest in a company, you'd spend like a few days researching the market. And not only that, you'd want to kind of bring in this like analytical side of your brain, where you'd want to connect multiple different dots and draw parallels with other industries as well. All of this takes me about 15 minutes to do now. So my experience is not 10x better, it's more than 100x better. So this is basically, I think, how most VCs are going about using it. That said, there are lots of other tools, Model ML, one of our portfolio companies, and a couple of others that are trying to do this, where they're trying to create this level of like a full stack environment where all the diligence and all the sourcing and all the other portfolio monitoring data, etc., can be completely automated, and AI agents can individually be allocated to either investors or even like the segments, and can do all of this for you while you're asleep. So that's again like a very, very exciting area for us, and I feel it's a very smart business building a company selling to VCs because all of us use it, we love it, we back them. So that's the level we are seeing.
Yeah, making our lives easier and more efficient. But let me ask you, what's your investment thesis on AI companies and how it evolved in the past year?
I think it evolves every 12 hours. So at this point, even the thesis I had yesterday has also evolved. We are very, very founders first, but at the same time, we do have certain exciting areas within the broader landscape that we monitor closely, that we are working towards building, that we are trying to get more founders excited about. And for me, right now, there are 3. There are actually 8, but I would talk about 3. One of the biggest ones is unified memory layers. So imagine everyone in this audience, every single individual is using some sort of AI tool. It could be ChatGPT, it could be Gemini, it could be Claude, it could be any of the others. And every single time we go and try to search for a query, we have to give the chatbot context. We have to say, hey, I'm this person. Like, for example, if I'm researching a company, I say, hey, I'm a VC based in London. This is our thesis area. This is what I'm excited about. This is what I already know, and this is what I'm trying to find out. All of this I have to repeat every single time I use a different AI tool. Now imagine it at its scale. If I as a team is working together and we are trying to kind of get to a conclusion where we are able to posit a thesis, we want all of the memories that are being used across different AI tools to be working together, have all of that additional context, and then come to the conclusion that we already could have by avoiding a meeting. This is the kind of stuff. So this is called unified memory layer, a layer that is interoperable across different AI tools, and at the same time is compatible with every single individual AI tool that has not even been created in the market today. So basically what I'm trying to say is like a new version of an API that could have enough context and enough awareness. Another one that I'm supremely excited about, and we were just talking about it like 30 minutes ago, is this thing called AI GEO. It's the evolution of SEO in the AI world. And it is basically something which is, again, you don't really have a clear winner in the market today. It is still a very big research problem as opposed to a product problem. And there are like a variety of researchers that are working on it, because if you don't solve for this, imagine if you search on Google, every single link is a sponsored link. Right now, we only see 3 sponsored links. Imagine a world where till the 150th page, every single link is a sponsored link. That is the world we are headed towards today. So again, that is an extremely exciting area. And for me personally, I'm very excited about engineering design. In the real world, when you're building, let's say, warehouses, when you're building factories, when you're building manufacturing units, you need simulated design environments, which require right now months and months of hard work, a lot of back and forth. It's basically similar to like, look at this beautiful, beautiful room. Imagine the amount of time this must have taken back in the day, and imagine the time it would take today to build something similar. It's exactly that. It's the paradigm shift of design simulation in high-stress environments and extremely high ACV environments, which has historically not been possible because we've not had that level of intelligence in automated systems. I can go on, but these are the 3 that I'm very personally excited about.
Thank you very much. And as we have time for one more question, I want to finish off with a look in the future, but also a look in the region. So in your opinion, what role do you see Eurasia playing in the global AI ecosystem? Maybe, Rish, we can start with you. Just one sentence, please, to be managed in the time.
I think with what's happening in the US, things are a little uncertain. That opens up a massive opportunity for pretty much every other region and I feel like innovation can come from everywhere, given what's happening with AI, especially in this region. I feel like every region requires a few role models to inspire them. If you look at historically what's happened in China or in India or a lot of other regions, you need like 1 or 2 success stories, and that inspires hundreds and thousands of people to do that. I feel like this region has started having some of those early stories, and I think it plays a massive role. I think it's very important for the ecosystem to support its entrepreneurs. And supporting entrepreneurship means supporting failures because you're rapidly iterating. And so I think Eurasia plays a fairly important role. I think Eurasia should also think of itself as sort of a gateway to a larger region, because one of the largest, one of the most obvious things to dismiss relatively smaller regions is that, hey, the market size is not big enough. But when you're a gateway to a much larger region, it's very hard to ignore. It becomes really powerful. It also, as I think Pedro was mentioning, it sort of bridges, you know, East and the West. It's just super interesting. So my sense is that a lot of new ideas are probably going to come from this region. So if, for example, when I think of things like on the theme of AI, one of the things I've always felt is that we've not had a massive wave of consumer tech in the last 10 years. So if you think of it, the last big wave of consumer tech happened when the mobile phone with location and GPS was created, and that gave us all the brands that we use today, right? Bolt and Uber and all these food delivery apps. In the last 10 years, if you ask any investor, you know, what have they funded? They've all funded B2B companies, essentially. And even now, if you look at AI, they have a consumer angle, but most of it has been B2B. I think with AI, there's going to be a massive wave of consumer companies. I think unique insights around consumer behaviors is going to be really interesting. If you look at like some of the most active regions of ChatGPT, it's this region. And so I think that's going to be super interesting. I probably see a lot of interesting, unique ideas coming up from these regions around those kinds of things.
Thank you. And Ash, in one sentence, the role of Eurasia in the global AI ecosystem?
I think we're already seeing it. It's already happening. We backed a company started by an 18-year-old based out of Kazakhstan, who has also since gotten into YC. And his product went viral globally, was #3 on Product Hunt for a month, and got the attention of the likes of Cursor founder, etc., where they fundamentally believe that this kind of a business can be integrated into what's already being built. So I think this creativity side that you just mentioned is massive. It has massive potential. And what Walter was also talking about, which was basically the tastes of humanity and how they would survive beyond AI, the combination of the two is something I'm seeing already in Eurasia. It's very creative. It does not already have that level of an echo chambery environment that other tech ecosystems eventually build up to. And because of that, just the quality of talent that we are seeing coming out is very inspiring.
Quality of talent, that sounds great. Thank you very much for this conversation. And thank you to the audience. Can't wait to hear the pitches next.
Thank you.
Ash, Rishabh, Diliana, thank you so much for an insightful discussion. Very crucial topic you were just covering. And ladies and gentlemen, we are getting closer to the heart of the demo day. We are about to hear our 6 founders from 500 Eurasia Batch 8 startups to pitch their problems and solutions here on this stage. They've been working for the last 12 weeks, putting their hearts and souls, pivoting, iterating, practicing. The last 2 weeks, they were here in Tbilisi. And yeah, I guess it's grand finale. We're about to hear what they've been working on. And I guess without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to the first founder. We're going straight into the serious geospatial intelligence. And Anna, together with Aina, they are helping businesses to make better decisions and to analyze the complex geographic data. An interesting fact about the founder, Anna, when she was 3 years old, she learned how to play the piano. And then when she was 4 years old, she learned how to play Bach. So all that precision that requires to be in the piano playing, now she's transforming and turning into the AI. Without any more waiting, I would like to introduce and to welcome, very warm round of applause to Anna!
Globally, there are 43 million specialists in construction, urban planning, and other industries working with physical spaces. They all need to make location decisions based on geospatial data like population density, traffic, surrounding buildings, income, and dozens of other factors. But most of them don't have the technical skills to do the work. Such analysis still requires a team of highly paid geospatial engineers and expensive software. And even then, it takes weeks of manual work to convert raw data into clear, usable maps. With INO, you simply ask questions and get an interactive map with detailed analysis within minutes, not weeks. We've built INO specifically for geospatial analysis. Unlike generic AI tools, INO understands spatial logic and delivers visualizations, not just text. Trained on thousands of manually collected real-world use cases, INO converts complex user questions into a step-by-step geoanalytical workflow with over 95% precision, which is close to human-level reasoning. Our users analyze spatial data with the accuracy of an engineer without being one. In just under a year, we've had 1,000 paying subscribers across 90 countries. We have a 7-to-1 LTV to CAC ratio, generating $200,000 annually and growing 30% month over month. Before INO, our team launched the leading platform in Eastern Europe for collecting and analyzing citizen feedback on locations, covering 400 cities. Now with INO, we've built a new standard for how businesses make location decisions. Join us.
Thank you. That was Anna from INO. And next, we're diving into e-commerce world. I'm pretty sure that most of us, we all have been there when we're trying to find a matching outfit for the things we already have in the wardrobe. Then we get frustrated because we cannot find that in the online shop, and we just leave that and leave it for later. Well, but that's not with Quizly, because Quizly comes to the market and helps to solve that problem with their search. And for that, we have Tazo, the CEO, who will come here and join us on stage. But an interesting detail about him as a founder, before he was building Quizly, he had more spare time, and he was spending it writing the plays, the screenwriting. And at some point, he also had the 20 people cast to create the whole play. Right now, all this knowledge is being applied to building a startup, and let's hear what he has to pitch. Tazo, welcome to the stage.
69% of online shoppers go straight to the search bar, but 76% of them cannot find what they're looking for. Why? When ChatGPT launched, it fundamentally changed how people search. They no longer use keywords like shoes. They type phrases like shoes to wear with red dress. They ask questions. They compare products. They expect a conversation. Not filters, not guesswork. But search tools were designed for keywords, not conversations. And when search fails, so do sales. That's why we built Quizly, AI-native product discovery engine that understands users' intent and matches it perfectly to the store's products. We have search, where users use natural language to find anything they want, and chat, where they can have interactive conversations and get on-demand help. In March, we signed our first customer, the largest Georgian marketplace. Within weeks of the launch, they saw a 50% increase in search-to-purchase conversion. Today, we power over 1 million users across 5 customers, helping them turn search into sales. We just built a Shopify app, and now 5 million shops have access to Quizly with just one-click integration. Our team has previously built enterprise-grade AI models to manage over 6 billion worth of assets. We built AI products to serve more than 2 million customers. The global e-commerce market is already generating over 4 trillion in revenue. And even big players like Amazon, Google, saw this change, and they built the conversational shopping tools. We did the same for every other e-commerce brand. The way people shop is changing, and we are leading this change.
And that was Quizly. And by the way, the songs you're hearing are chosen by the founders. So all the rounds of applauses we're giving to them, firing up the energy and gives them courage and confidence to be here, show up 110%. All right, now we're shifting to the finance world. Factor is helping small and medium businesses to unlock the capital faster. And building every company, every startup, it does require resilience. You have the ups, you have the downs. It's just the journey of the founder. And Azad is actually an Ironman. I'm not sure how many of you know the distances of Ironman. It's kind of a wild endurance race, right? If you want to complete an Ironman, you have to swim 4 kilometers, you have to run full marathon, and then cycle 180 kilometers. And he also actually represented Kazakhstan in the world race of Ironman, which is a big deal. He really has the resilience. Now let's hear his speech. So, Azad, the stage is yours.
This quarter, Factor financed $2 million in loans for small and medium businesses, 5 times more than previous quarter. Our loans generate an average interest rate of 60%, and the repayment rate is 100%. We partner with major private credit institutions, and because of our track record, they doubled our lending capital to $10 million. Here's why they want to work with us. It can take more than a month for banks in Central Asia to process loan applications. And even then, 7 out of 10 go through this process only to find out they've been rejected. We solve this with Factor, a supply chain finance solution for small and medium businesses. To accelerate approvals, we built an AI credit agent that cuts processing time from weeks to just days. Our clients love working with us. 60% of them return for a second loan within 6 months. This concept has been proven by companies like Slope and Billy in more mature markets, funding hundreds of millions of dollars for businesses. In this region, we are one of the first movers. We're starting in Kazakhstan and expanding to broader Central Asia, where unmet SMB financing needs exceed $30 billion. Having previously launched fintech products, including full-scale digital banks, we have the right team to build this. In just a few months, we secured 10 and deployed $2 million. We power business growth with instant access to working capital. Let's talk.
All right, we are about to hear from the pseudo master who turned into the AI warrior. And Aspis is building a trading powerhouse in a small messenger chat. And Vito, who was also a champion, multi-champion in Samba, also is a wild traveler. So whenever he gets a chance to choose something more adventurous when he travels, he definitely does that. I guess let's give it up for Vito!
Decentralized finance promised transparency and control. Transparency, buried in unreadable data. Control, until funds leave your wallet and get stolen. In fact, 99% of tokens are scams or noise. 3 billion is lost annually to centralized collapses. And users, they juggle more than 4 tools to trade these. This isn't innovation. It's an unregulated casino. Let's look at Mark, a typical trader that lives it daily. He isn't clueless. He does research, checks charts, yet every single day he faces the same 3 problems: security, fake information, and fragmented tools. And there are many users just like Mark. And together, they lose $1 billion every month because the existing tools were not designed for them. That's why we built Aspis, a trading copilot that resolves it all in one chat-based interface. Now Mark has full custody. He never loses control over funds, even when trading. He gets clear signals, only whitelisted assets, and weighted data sources. And plain language execution. Mark just types, buy $200 of Ethereum at the best price. Aspis validates their requests, runs analysis, and sets the order. We already have 40,000 wallets connected, 500 portfolio managers in our Telegram interface. And launched just a few weeks ago, we managed over $250,000. The tech behind Aspis is validated by our industry leaders. The market is massive. $13 billion of retail capital is still underserved. And we are a team of 3 professionals who have already made a tech exit. We run a $1 million AI trading fund, and we scaled the company to $2 million in annual revenue. Decentralized finance promised the future. We deliver it.
Thank you, Vita. So we have 2 more founders to show up here on stage and pitch from the batch 8. And the next one goes into offline security, I would say. Online security is important, but offline as well, especially to be predictive. So Quid helps to solve that. And Sebastian started his first business when he was 12 years old. He speaks already 5 languages, understands 20, and ready to change the way security works. So give a huge round of applause to Sebastian!
4 years ago, my uncle was murdered in his own home. He had what everyone considers to be good security: cameras, an alarm system with professional monitoring. However, this system failed him. It did not prevent the crime, it just recorded it. Now, here's the truth. Whether it's a $50 smart camera or a $5,000 enterprise system, security systems of today fundamentally fail at preventing. They are reactive. And that is why we built Quid. With Quid, we detect the early warning signs, like entry into a restricted area or lockpicking. We use insights from thousands of real incidents to spot threats. We proactively prevent crime. While traditional operators juggle between 6+ different tools of the past century, with Quid, this happens under one unified system. Our fully integrated platform enables automation, making security operations 8 times more efficient. Lastly, our system is compatible with any IP camera. Plug and play and be protected with Quid within minutes. The global security market is a $247 billion market with a 6% yearly growth rate and a clear sign towards digitization. We've already secured 4 enterprise contracts, realized over $160,000 in revenue, and secured over 100 locations. I myself have built and scaled electronics businesses, invested in over 50 startups. My co-founder and CTO, Matt, has built 4 AI vision solutions. And we're building this with a team of builders of several 9-figure businesses and exits to companies like Cisco. It's too late for my uncle, but not for everybody else. So if you're interested in security technology that saves lives and prevents daily, let's chat.
Thank you so much. All right, last but not least, have you ever wondered what if your company materials and information could actually turn into training materials and some kind of knowledge base? Evolve solves exactly that. And Stan, to chase this dream, he quit his full-time job. He took all the courage to actually build a company. He does not believe into 9 to 5. He works days, he works nights, he puts his all heart to make Evolve happen. So without any further ado, please welcome on stage, Stan!
We've just signed a $100,000 annual contract with one of our new clients, joining UI, Carlsberg, Sharp, Uzum, and other enterprises in using our platform to transform how their teams learn. The problem is big. Last year, companies spent over $30 billion on employee online training. Yet, 90% of it's forgotten within 1 week. This happens because today's learning management systems are stuck on a 20-year-old architecture with no way to leverage AI. They track clicks and completions, they focus on tests and badges, but they don't let employee practice real-life challenges. We at Evolve solve this. I'm Stan, the founder of AI-native learning operating system designed to replace these legacy platforms. With Evolve, companies build trainings 10 times faster. They train their employees with practical simulations. And they convert insightful analytics into performance. And what we're seeing is remarkable. Job performance is increased by 30%. Training time is cut in half. And knowledge retention is boosted by 60%. In just 10 months, we've achieved $33,000 in monthly revenue, and we grow 30% month over month. We are active across Europe, MENA, South and Central Asia, and we've been recognized as one of the top innovators in learning tech. We have the right team to lead this change. With successful exits, with leadership roles at top companies, we bring deep expertise in AI, in corporate training, and in enterprise sales. We are reimagining what learning looks like inside modern companies, and the market is already listening.
Thank you so much, everyone. We've just heard 6 founders who we are welcoming to 500 Global Portfolio, and it's just the beginning. Today's grand finale of the 12 weeks we've been together and the beginning of new challenges. So big round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, we're getting to the third part of the evening. But before that, before we get into the alumni spotlight, I would like to invite you all to stand up so we a bit re-energize ourselves. Don't be lazy. Let's stand up. And since we have so much vibrant energy in the room, so we don't lose this momentum, and we're all on socials all the time, I want to do a bit of a Gen Z, even though I'm not Gen Z thing. I have my phone, I have camera, so we're gonna make a picture, and later on, good luck finding yourself and tagging. Are we ready? We have to capture this moment, yes. All right, I hope everyone fits in. One more time, and a quick video. All right, are we ready? Once again, batch 8, demo day, woohoo! Yes, we did it, and we did it all together with all the energy. And it's still not over, guys. Right now, before we dive into Alumni Spotlight, take a seat, say hi to your neighbor. I would like to invite my team to set up the stage for our upcoming Fireside chat with one of our portfolio companies. Once again, founders, well done with the pitches. It was great. And right now, we're moving into the alumni spotlight. So what can we expect? We're going to hear a fireside chat with one of our alumni, Ilya, who actually gained quite some great results in 2 years from 0 to 2 million ARR dollars. That's impressive. So I think we're going to learn some secrets. And later on, we will hear 3-hour alumni pitching here on stage. So stay with us, and for that, I would like to invite Ilya Chernyakov, co-founder of Praktika.ai, and Pedro Santos Vieira, partner at 500 Global, to lead the discussion. Round of applause.
Alrighty. Okay. We heard a bunch of guys who are trying to build big companies, and now we have one who's already a third way there.
I'm glad to be here, third time.
Yeah, it's
3 years in a row.
It's glad to have you on stage. I think you have a lot of things to share that can be quite interesting for the founders in the audience, but also for all of those that are following us online. So I'm obviously picking up my cues here because there's a couple of things that I wanted to discuss with you, but maybe why don't we just start with like the 30 seconds usual, pitch of what is Praktika and what's it doing for its users.
Right, so Praktika builds an AI language learning tutor. It's available in mobile apps all over the world, as easy as that.
So connecting that with the human ambition theme, right? So when you started Praktika with Adam, what was the human ambition behind that AI solution?
Actually speaking, it was pretty human because, like, if we even take a look at the audience, who of you guys raise your hands who is native English speaker?
Very few.
So except for these 3 lucky guys in the middle, so the whole audience here is pretty much a market for Praktika, right? And this actually tells a lot about how, and this is breach to what the panelists have been discussing, right? So finding the right pain point. So none of us of the founders were actually native English speakers, and when Adam actually came up with an idea like, why don't we just make a language learning tutor, which was so obvious, like it was so on the surface because like, all right, yeah, so AI is there, like the problem most probably is there.
But when we digged a bit into it, it was actually kind of scary how huge the opportunity was, because by that time, it was 2022, by that time, there was the whole world, like $10 billion market and everything, where only Duolingo was actually kind of running the show. And they were there for around 10 years already. And still, in some countries like Brazil, some huge economies, 90% of population couldn't just speak English. And for us, it was kind of the most attractive thing here, because we understood that we can help all the others to actually gain this experience. When like they cannot afford a tutor, which would be a perfect solution, of course, but like it's consuming time, it's consuming money. Not everyone can actually afford it, right? So, and on the other hand, things like Duolingo, they don't actually help you start speaking a language. So that's how Praktika came.
Very cool. And you were sharing with me when we were on the way here that now you got to this point that your product and your solution is becoming so known that there's copycats cropping up everywhere all the time, including like just basically screenshotting your. You want to tell that story where they're screenshotting your ads?
It's a very fresh one, actually. Today at night, I was arriving to the hotel here in Tbilisi, and I was just like scrolling the reels, and I saw one of our employees there on the reel actually advertising another brand, another application. It was that shocking. Like I was, come on, like why do you do it for other app? Why do you do it for other country? And then I understood it was just our advertising. They cut the part with the human, and they just put some other like kind of graphics from their own company above it. And this is like kind of happening, like we report everywhere, like today the team just like, we report it on TikTok and Facebook everywhere, but like still, so it's nothing you can do with it. Like it's just happening. Yeah.
Take us through that journey. I mean, you just said, you know, when we started, very few were trying to do this. Duolingo was doing their thing. Hopefully they'll continue doing their thing, so you guys continue winning market share. Take us through that journey of like 0 to 20 million, like so fast.
Well, I mean, it seems to be fast, but it was so much cornerstones when you look back, and so much challenges. Like we started, the whole project like started even before ChatGPT and GPT 3.5 actually arrived to the market. So you can imagine how complicated it was to actually think about the technology underneath, like what it is, like it's a BERT-like model, or is it like a close-end dialogue or something. And we actually came to a conclusion after like having several iterations, MVPs, like usual story, nothing like nothing unusual here. So we were testing, learning the feedback, trying to get some money from the users, understand the value. And then we understood that actually the key thing that we want to bring is the open-end conversation with a tutor, because this is exactly when you feel the power of learning a language, when you can start speaking a language, actually. And we understood that this is something that we need to put most of our effort into, and we started to work with transformers even before 3.5. It was like kind of GPT-3 Da Vinci by that time. I know that most of you didn't even hear about it, but like, it was crazy. And then, of course, like when 3.5 arrived and we got the API in our hand, like it was sleepless nights, I don't know, several months we've been building and building and building on top, like creating content, creating like this architecture, everything. And for us, it was, by that time, kind of plug and play in terms of the product. So it was, yeah, a breakthrough.
Yeah. And I remember, I mean, when you joined the program, all the experiments that you guys were trying to do with B2B, because every single VC in the world was telling you got to do B2B, and you were stuck there. And then we did a bunch of things with you. Now I'm just, boosting my ego here. But you want to talk a little bit about that, or how the experience went from, having failed at a bunch of stuff on B2B, you joined the program, get a little bit of capital from us, and then boom, what happened?
I would say that like the main driving part for us, it was kind of a huge emotional lift, because for us getting into 500 by that time, obviously it was a dream coming true. I'm not trying to kind of say fluffy words, but for that time, really like when you're like kind of dreaming about building a worldwide consumer app, and you're thinking about like Airbnb, you're thinking about like these kind of giant apps, you're thinking about also accelerators like 500, Y Combinator, all these kind of guys. And for you, it's kind of a dream as every startup. So for us, it was a huge breath of fresh air and helped us structure our knowledge in the right way, because like it was really intensive. It was really kind of a school that we, the school of discipline even, that we were craving for that time. And actually, it gave us kind of foundation to finish the experimenting with this new Praktika, if you call it 2.0 or something like the app that you see now in stores actually. So this was the period when it appeared.
And so let's talk a bit about the product. I mean, you're the, I think we can say you're the product guy behind the product. And we've been talking here a lot about human ambition, AI, synthetic, etc. You want to talk a little bit about how you guys came about doing all this using avatars versus, you know, the traditional methods that the other guys, which we already mentioned, were doing. What was the thinking there, and how do you think it's actually going to evolve? Because you're also telling me like you're still at just scratching the surface, right? So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So actually the conversation itself, it appears to be the most natural way for a person to actually communicate, and we can see it even with machines, right? Like for us now, ChatGPT is okay, it's chat, right? Chat window, you can write something there, that's fine. But actually, this is an amazing product design work underneath of it, because like when you see all this kind of reasoning, plates, everything, so you feel like there is something alive on the other side of the screen. So that was actually part of what Praktika was thinking about, because our main idea was to simulate a native speaking environment from like where you're sitting. Like if you're just after kind of your university on the sofa, you can feel this nature of real environment. And for us, the visual part was crucial all the time. And still it is very crucial part of the experience, because when you're just chatting, that's fine. You can imagine something, right? So you can imagine things that are happening on the other side. But here you can see a person-like character, right? Someone that you can take a look, and someone you can relate to. And you can see how the lips are moving. You can see how the emotions are appearing when speaking. And actually, all this experience create the AI tutor paradigm. So this is...
Yeah, so I don't know, I don't want to put you in the hot seat, if you will, but are there like metrics of user engagement that you feel like super proud of, that you are super proud of, and you can share publicly without giving away the metrics to the competition?
For sure, like we have users staying with us, like Praktika is around 2 years in the production phase. We have users who are staying with us for 2 years. This is something that's really important for us, and we talk to these users on a daily basis, trying to understand what keeps them inside the process. Right, and this specific thing about the avatar and about the whole tutorship experience and conversation, this is not something that we just believe in, but we have specific data, specific user feedback. We have 10, 15 user interviews per week, trying to grasp this kind of understanding of how Praktika does help and actually brings this through years. And but the most important thing for us is actually like we're still focusing on the main goal, is to let people start speaking a language. And here, like, we have a great story to tell. Like, a couple of weeks back, we had our product demo. This is something inside the company, so each team brings something to the table, share with the whole company, like, we built that feature, this feature, and everything. And this was the first in a kind where we invited some of our users. So it was kind of a keynote presentation, like something that you see on Apple or something, but in a very kind of, intimate atmosphere, of course. So they were kind of several of our power users. And imagine all of them were learning English. They started from scratch. And one of the users in the end, she took a word. She's an elementary teacher from Italy. So she's learning just for fun. She loves English and everything. And she showed to the camera, imagine the whole team is sitting on the call. She's showing that her streak in the app is 64 days. And she's saying that 65 days ago, I couldn't speak in English. And this is happening live on English on the conversation with 50 people around. And this is the aha moment when actually the whole team understands what we're
It
building
took,
for.
I think by now, 560 something days for my daughter to learn Italian with Duolingo, and she still doesn't speak Italian. This is just a
But she
bash,
has
just a bash on the competition here.
A great streak, though.
So, talking a little bit about the potential of the region, because some of that was also already covered in the previous panel. What was and you raised like this massive Series A from one of the leading investors in London. What was it like, to grow? I mean, you're still growing it, but starting to scale really fast a company from this region, raising capital from leading VCs outside the region. What was that experience? Are there like 1-2 key lessons you can share with other founders that are listening in so they can do the same?
Right. So I wouldn't say it was easy. But fundraising is
if it was
not
easy, others
anywhere.
would have done it too. No?
So it's not easy anywhere. Though, several things for me to keep in mind is that, I know that for some B2B products or for some B2C products, they have some local kind of specifics, right? But for product like Praktika, for us, surprisingly, it didn't even matter where you start. It didn't even matter where you are. You can live anywhere, and our team is kind of remote and living elsewhere in the world. But the important thing is that the product you're building. And for a person from Brazil or Indonesia, they don't care where the company is located, right? So if you build a good product, they would pay you money and they would stick with you and they would stay with you. So it doesn't actually matter. And this region, we all come from this region, and this region has an amazing pool of talent. This region has amazing emerging, I would say, initiatives happening throughout Central Asia, Caucasus, so everywhere. And we see it we are here, guys, for, I'm here third time. I imagine, you, Pedro, how many times have been here already. So, it brings a lot of understanding that it doesn't matter that much where you are, but it's more about the product you're building and how valuable it is for the users.
Amazing, amazing. How about we connect this to what Walter was talking about, which is choosing what not to build, and you're a product guy. Can you come up with 1-2 things that you decided, definitely I'm not going to build this and I'm going to focus on that?
You see, the funny story, I was watching Lenny's newsletter podcast the other day, and there was a guy who was doing the app for video editing. And they shared that they have a kind of an approach when they have a public roadmap and the private roadmap, a secret roadmap, as they call it. So the funny story, and we have just the same, that's why I'm telling. So for the public roadmap is something that each app, if you're kind of having a base of users, you will receive a lot of inquiries every day, do this, do that, give this feature. And most of them, they will be on the surface, right? I don't know, you just, one of the top requests that we are having now is do dark mode in the app. We don't have a dark mode in the app. It's not principle, but we all the time, we prioritize the educational value, we prioritize kind of the experience itself over this kind of trying to be dragged to some kind of things that everyone on the market has. And this is the unique thing for innovation for this stage of a company when you're growing, when you're early stage. So for you, it's so important to focus on what really matters. And for us, it's always about inventing new stuff. So, or strengthening what is working. So that's why there are a bunch of features that we wouldn't do, like flashcards, like dark mode. We will do it at some point of a time, maybe when we have resources, when we're not that kind of urging. But when the whole team is striving to deliver the best AI tutorship experience in the world, dark mode can wait. So this is something that we have in mind.
That's how you get to 20 million a year in 18 months. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here because we got 3 more companies coming on stage. Thank you so much for the audience. Thank you so much for those online. We'll be back with 3 more companies. Thank you, Ilya, once again for sharing your learnings.
Thank you for having me.
Ilya, Pedro, thank you. It was a pure gold and truly sets the bar what's possible actually, and to think and dream big and yeah, behind the small frames. So that was really inspiring and very impressive to hear that. And right now, as Pedro mentioned, we are continuing with our alumni spotlight, and we will be inviting our graduates from the program. And the first founder who will come on stage, he's been part of the program half a year ago. And right now, Dennis is building DDD Invoices. And DDD Invoices is briefly one API global invoicing compliance. And Dennis is the founder who really likes challenges. So recently we spotted him actually in the Founders Challenge, Founders Game, which is an online reality show and game. So you can check it out later. But for now, let's hear from Dennis. Give a round of applause.
DDD Invoices is the fastest and simplest way to make sure a crucial business component, tax-compliant invoicing, is taken care of. Since participating in the last batch, we've doubled the volume of processed invoices and just closed a round of industry-specific angels. The internet unlocked global demand, but the regulation, tax compliance, and invoicing rules are still broken, local, and stuck in the past. Behind every scaling business, there's an invisible web of bureaucracy, now getting even more complex due to e-invoicing and fiscalization mandates. Country by country, governments are mandating e-invoicing, which means that country by country, portal by portal, rule by rule, businesses have to report every single invoice into the local tax portals in real time just to stay compliant. If they don't, no money, no funny. While governments build these webs of complexities, we build the infrastructure to break those walls down. With one solution, one integration done in one day. An infrastructure to keep the government complexities at bay. One API, any country. We integrate into the back office systems, and by utilizing own AI proprietary mechanism, configure the invoice flow to adhere to the local laws and report invoices into the local tax portals. This reduces compliance costs for the companies, allows for faster invoice settling, and also decreases CO2 emissions. We also unlock new market for the companies, which means unlocking new revenue. We've been growing steadily to currently 160K ARR, and we are really looking forward to soon tap into the network effect tactics to further enhance our go-to-market. The team has been previously building ERPs. We then sold that company and reinvested all the capital into DDD Invoices. We are now helping companies to navigate an e-invoicing market which will grow 6 times over the next 7 years. Why? Because you don't start a company to deal with tax portals. We did, so you don't have to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, our next founder, he's been building the TAS vision for the last 5 years. He's been with us during the batch 3. And we usually think about the online stores, usability, and analytics, but sometimes we forget that we are still humans. We need human connection, and we do have offline retail. So TAS Vision builds in-store analytics for offline retailers, and this way, they help to boost their revenue. And Shaq, for his entrepreneurial and innovation activities in Uzbekistan, actually has been awarded 2 times from the president itself. So, Shaq, the stage is yours.
we are operating in 8 countries, and we are generating more than 1.2 million ARR. We grow very fast. We're working with plus 100 brands with a 97% of retention rate. This is because online stores have many tools to track and analyze customer data in order to optimize conversions and increase sales. But offline stores, physical retail locations, have limited tool and poor data to make the right decisions. And we fix it, introducing Task Vision, a SaaS AI video tool that helps offline retailers to check and analyze customer data. With our tool, our existing customers already increased their revenue by 20%. Let me tell you how. We connect with the store's existing CCTV cameras or provide our own AI camera. Then our AI analyzes the in-store behavior of shoppers and how store employees engaged are. After that, we provide actionable insights and recommendations on what to do in order to increase on-site sales. Our business model is simple. It starts from 10K USD till the 50K USD per year per company. The global market is so huge. It estimates about 1.2 trillion USD, or 40 million offline stores. Hi, I'm Shaq, co-founder and CEO. I built a similar technology for a public transport. And now I'm bringing my expertise into retail space with my team of proven PhD engineers. Together, we prove that offline retailer needs AI. Today, we have already connected 1,800 retail stores with a 1.2 million ARR. And this is just the beginning. Tomorrow, our AI will tell retailers exactly what to do in order to improve sales performance and improve customer experience. We are ready. Are you?
All right, last but not least, our final founder pitching on stage of the night is building Al Dente AI. It's like video GPT to help gain real-time insights for the businesses. And Laura moved from Kazakhstan to sunny California to chase her dream to build a company. And without any further ado, huge round of applause to Laura!
Since graduating from 500 Eurasia, with 5x revenue in MRR, reaching 50K within 6 months, expanded from 20 locations to over 100. In fast casual and quick service restaurants, operations drive profit. The best service wins. Yet most rely on staff report or manual check to understand what's happening in store. That's why we built Al Dente AI, which track key aspects of customer experience: sitting time, food delivery, and even how often the staff check in at the table, all while maintaining customer privacy. And it works. We help customers to increase peak hour sales by 15%, repeat visits by 20%, and reduce wait times by 25%, all without additional headcount. Working with large chains like Panda Express, we saw even a bigger opportunity. We started by giving locations eyes and a brain. Now we are building the full-body AI that can see, understand, talk, and act. Imagine a digital operator that takes orders and interacts with customers in real time. These agents cut operational workload by up to 30%, increase average check, and save millions on hiring. They work like best employee, never sick, and available 24/7. In the US alone, our opportunity for 200,000 chains is worth $12 billion US. Globally, it is 50 times bigger. We are a team of builders. with deep roots in AI, computer vision, data, and hospitality. And we know how to scale the product. We are going to build autonomous spaces, starting with restaurants and going far beyond. Curious? I'm Laura. Let's chat after this.
Thank you, Laura. And dear audience, distinguished guests, this is it. We are getting closer to official first part of the evening. And thank you, everyone who were here today on this stage, sharing their insights. Thank you, dear founders, for your courage, showing up here with all your energy, with brave, bold ideas, because we are witnessing right now the change. We are witnessing the future all here together. And thank you, dear audience, partners, friends, investors, organizers, for being here, bringing it together, and making it happen. Because without all of us here on site, all of us tuning in from all over the world, that wouldn't be happening. And right now, we will continue our night in the networking area, where we will have a chance to talk to our Batch 8 founders, to exchange contacts, to learn more, and just to mingle around. But before we close the night, since that's a graduation of our Batch 8, I guess it's a great time to announce that applications for the Batch 9 are open. So make sure that you share the information with your network, your friends for whom it's relevant. Because for some people, the new journey is about to begin this fall with a new batch. And right now, thank you everyone for being part of 500 Eurasia Demo Day. Let's continue getting to know each other and the founders in the networking area, and all the organizers, volunteers, partners, founders. I would like to invite you on stage for the group photo. And everyone who are tuning in, thank you. Thank you for being here with us, and see you next time.